On a cold, windy street, a young boy with a prosthetic leg struggles to survive, but his heart is full of generosity. When a lonely millionaire crosses his path, neither could have predicted that one small act of kindness would change both of their lives forever. Will this unlikely bond lead to redemption, or destroy them both? If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The city streets were cold and unforgiving that morning. A sharp autumn wind whipped through the narrow alleyways, carrying with it the scent of damp pavement and rustling leaves. Jamal, a 12-year-old boy, shivered under the threadbare blanket he wrapped tightly around his shoulders. The wind bit at his exposed skin, but he barely noticed. Life on the streets had made him accustomed to the cold. Every morning, he woke up to the same harsh reality, a life where survival was the only goal. Jamal had learned early on that the world was not kind to those without a place to call home. His right leg, replaced by a prosthetic after a childhood accident, made walking difficult. Each step was a calculated effort, his movements slow and painful. But even with a leg that never quite felt like his own, Jamal never complained. He simply did what he had to do to survive. In the small corner of the city where he lived, Jamal was known. Not for his prosthetic leg, nor for his condition, but for something else, his kindness. Despite having so little, he always found a way to give. He would share his bread with anyone who was hungry, his blanket with anyone who was cold. And always, without fail, he shared everything with his loyal companion, Rocky. Rocky, a small terrier with scruffy fur, was more than just a dog to Jamal. He was family. Every night when the city's noise grew quieter and the darkness settled over them, Jamal would curl up under his blanket with Rocky by his side. Despite the hardships, despite the cold, the two found warmth in each other. They were partners in survival, facing the cruel world together, side by side. Jamal's days followed a simple routine. He woke early, when the first light of the day barely pierced through the clouds. The streets were already bustling with life. People hurried past, heads down, too busy to notice the young boy on the corner. Some threw him a glance, their faces filled with pity. Others didn't look at him at all, too focused on their own lives to spare a thought for the boy who lived on the pavement. Jamal didn't mind. He had learned not to expect much from the world. His mornings often began in the same place, a small park not far from where he slept. The park was quiet in the early hours, a rare moment of peace before the chaos of the city took over. Jamal and Rocky would walk there, the boy's prosthetic leg creaking with each step, and sit by the fountain. If Jamal was lucky, he could scavenge a few scraps of food from the park's vendors. He always made sure to feed Rocky first, even if it meant going without for a while. Jamal's heart was as big as the world was cold. He would always offer what little he had to others, a piece of bread to a hungry stranger, a smile to someone who looked lonely, a place in his blanket for someone who shivered in the cold. His generosity was known throughout the park. Some of the other homeless people, the ones who had been there longer than Jamal, would nod at him in approval, recognizing the boy's selflessness. But Jamal didn't do it for the praise. He did it because it was the right thing to do. Life on the streets had taught him that even the smallest act of kindness could make a world of difference. It didn't matter that he had so little. He believed that sharing was what made him rich in spirit. And for Jamal, that was all that mattered. As the day stretched on, Jamal and Rocky would wander through the city. They would pass by busy streets and crowded markets, but Jamal never stopped paying attention to the people around him. He noticed the elderly man with a heavy coat, struggling to carry his groceries, or the young woman with a stroller, looking exhausted. Jamal would always find a way to help, even if it was just by offering a few words of encouragement or a small gesture of kindness. He didn't know much about the world beyond the streets, but he knew that kindness was universal. It didn't require money or status. All it required was a willingness to care. One cold morning, as Jamal limped through the park, his eyes caught sight of something unusual. There, sitting alone on a bench, was a man he didn't recognize. He was dressed in a long, elegant coat that seemed out of place in the weathered park. His face was drawn, his eyes distant. There was a weight to his presence that Jamal could feel from where he stood. Jamal hesitated for a moment, wondering who this man might be. He had seen many people in the park, some who came and went, others who stayed for longer. But this man with his somber expression seemed different. Jamal continued to watch him from a distance, his curiosity piqued. Why was the man so sad? What could have brought him to this park on such a cold day? As Jamal sat quietly by the fountain, Rocky curled up beside him. He noticed the man looking down at his hands, seemingly lost in thought. For a moment, their eyes met. Jamal gave him a small smile, unsure if the man would notice. But he did. The man's face softened slightly, as though the brief connection had awakened something inside him. Jamal didn't know it then, but that brief exchange would change both of their lives. The man, whose name was Oliver, was at a crossroads in his life. He had everything that money could buy: wealth, success, and status. Yet he felt emptier than ever before. The divorce that had left him shattered was a wound that no amount of success could heal. And yet here was this boy, with nothing but a prosthetic leg and a loyal dog, who still managed to offer kindness without asking for anything in return. It was a moment of pure, raw humanity, one that Oliver had not experienced in years. As the day passed and the shadows grew longer, Jamal and Rocky settled in for the night. The city's lights flickered on, casting a faint glow over the streets. Jamal wrapped his arms around Rocky and closed his eyes, thankful for the small moments of peace he had. He couldn't know yet that in just a few days his life would be forever altered by the man on the bench. The world was a tough place for Jamal, but he still believed that kindness could change everything. As the days passed, Jamal continued his routine, living from one small moment of kindness to the next. Every day was a challenge, but it also held small victories. His heart remained open even as the world around him seemed to grow colder. Every morning he would wake up to the same harsh reality: the biting cold, the aching leg, the empty stomach. Yet despite all this, Jamal's spirit never wavered. He had learned long ago that kindness was the only thing that could fill the emptiness inside him. And so he gave, even when he had little to give. One afternoon, as Jamal made his way through the park, he saw the man from the bench again. Oliver was still sitting there in his long coat, looking as lost as the first time Jamal had noticed him. This time, however, Oliver's eyes met Jamal's, and there was something different in his gaze. Something softer. He didn't look away, or seem detached like he had before. Jamal hesitated, unsure of whether he should approach or not. The man seemed distant, like someone lost in his own world. But something in his eyes told Jamal that maybe this time things could be different. Jamal limped closer, moving at a slow pace as his prosthetic leg creaked with every step. Rocky, his loyal dog, trotted alongside him, sniffing the ground as they walked. Jamal stopped a few feet away from Oliver and gave him a tentative smile. It was a small gesture, but it was all Jamal knew to offer. Oliver looked up at Jamal, his face a mix of surprise and curiosity. The two of them stood in silence, for a moment the noise of the park fading into the background. Jamal didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to talking to people like this, especially not strangers who seemed so different from him. But the silence didn't last long. Oliver broke it with a quiet, almost hesitant voice. "You're the boy from the park," Oliver said, softly. Jamal nodded. "Yeah, that's me." The man studied Jamal for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly as if he were searching for something. He seemed lost in thought, as though something about Jamal had stirred something inside him. Finally, Oliver spoke again, his voice still quiet, but there was an air of curiosity in his words. "Why do you do it?" he asked. "Why do you share what little you have with others?" Jamal didn't have to think about it. It was simple, to him. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said. "Everyone needs help sometimes. Even if we don't have much, we can still give something." Oliver looked down at his hands, as if contemplating the boy's words. His life had been filled with wealth, success, and things most people could only dream of. But none of it had made him happy. It had all left him feeling empty. And here was this boy with barely anything to his name, who still found the strength to give to others. It was a stark contrast to everything Oliver had known, and it left him questioning his own life. "I don't understand," Oliver admitted. "How do you do it? How do you give when you have so little?" Jamal shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "It's not about how much you have. It's about what you do with it. I can't change the world, but I can help the people around me." Oliver felt a lump form in his throat. The boy's words were simple, but they carried a depth that resonated with him. He had spent years building a life filled with material wealth, but it had never brought him peace. He had a successful business, a beautiful home, and everything money could buy, but he had never felt truly content. Watching Jamal, seeing the boy's pure generosity, something in Oliver began to shift. He started to see what he had been missing. "You're a special kid, Jamal," Oliver said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how you do it, but you've shown me something I've lost along the way." Jamal wasn't sure how to respond. He wasn't used to being called special. He was just a boy trying to survive, just like the others on the streets. But something in Oliver's voice made Jamal feel seen for the first time in a long while. He felt like maybe, just maybe, someone understood him. As the days went by, Oliver found himself coming back to the park, drawn to Jamal's quiet strength and the kindness he showed to everyone around him. He couldn't explain it, but he felt compelled to spend more time with the boy. Every time he saw Jamal, he felt a sense of warmth inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. And with each passing day, Jamal's generosity began to chip away at the walls Oliver had built around himself. One evening, as Jamal sat on his usual bench with Rocky by his side, he noticed Oliver approaching. The man didn't sit down right away, but stood for a moment looking at Jamal. There was something different in his expression, something that Jamal couldn't quite place. Oliver cleared his throat. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice steady but unsure. Maybe I can help you, Jamal." Jamal looked up, surprised. "Help me?" Oliver nodded. "Yes, I've been thinking about what you said, about giving what you have. And I want to help you. I don't know how, but I think I can make things better for you." Jamal wasn't sure what to say. He had heard promises from people before, but they were always empty. Still, there was something about Oliver that made Jamal feel like this time, maybe it would be different. Maybe, just maybe, this man could give him the chance he had always dreamed of. "Why?" Jamal asked, his voice cautious. Oliver smiled, a soft, genuine smile. "Because you've shown me what really matters. And I want to help you see that there's more to life than just surviving. I want to help you live." For the first time in a long while, Jamal felt a spark of hope. He wasn't sure what this would mean, or where it would lead, but he felt that the bond between him and Oliver was the beginning of something bigger than either of them could imagine. The days following their quiet conversation in the park felt different for Jamal. There was something in the air, a subtle shift that made him feel like perhaps for the first time, things could be different. He still woke up every morning in the same spot, under the same worn blanket with Rocky by his side. The cold was still there, biting at his skin, and the hunger never quite left. But now, in the back of his mind, there was a flicker of hope that hadn't been there before. Oliver, too, found himself returning to the park day after day. He couldn't explain it, but Jamal had gotten under his skin. The boy's kindness, his selflessness, and the purity in his actions had touched something deep inside Oliver. He had spent so many years focused on business, on acquiring wealth, that he had forgotten what it meant to truly care for someone. Watching Jamal, Oliver began to realize just how much he had missed. And something about the boy's simple but profound way of life made Oliver want to help him. One chilly morning, as Jamal was sitting on his usual bench with Rocky, he noticed a figure approaching. It was Oliver. The man walked slowly, his hands tucked into the pockets of his coat, his gaze focused on the ground. Jamal couldn't help but wonder why Oliver was back again. Was he here just to watch him again? Or was there something more? When Oliver reached Jamal, he stopped, his expression soft but serious. Jamal looked up, meeting his gaze. "Hey, Jamal," Oliver said quietly. "How are you today?" Jamal shrugged, his usual response to that question. "Same as always," he said. "Just getting by." Oliver nodded, his eyes searching Jamal's face as if trying to read something deeper. "You know, Jamal," he said, his voice hesitant, "I've been thinking about how you've helped so many people even when you have so little yourself. It's made me realize something." Jamal looked up at him, confused. "Realize what?" Oliver hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I want to help you, not just by giving you some money or food, but I want to give you something that could change everything for you. Something that might help you live a better life, a life where you don't have to worry about survival every day." Jamal's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure if he had heard Oliver right. He had lived on the streets for so long that the idea of someone genuinely wanting to help him was hard to believe. People had offered him food before, or a few coins, but nothing like this. He didn't know how to respond. Oliver could see the hesitation in Jamal's eyes. He understood. It was hard for someone who had lived through so much pain and struggle to trust a stranger, but he was determined to help. "I know this might be hard to believe," Oliver continued, "but I want to offer you something more than just charity. I want to help you find a way out of this life. I want to offer you a place to stay, a roof over your head, a warm bed. And I want to teach you, help you learn, so that you can build a better future for yourself." Jamal stared at Oliver, his mind racing. A place to stay? A warm bed? It was like something out of a dream. For so long he had wished for a life like that. But he had never believed it was possible. How could someone like him, someone who had always lived in the streets, ever have a chance at something better? And why was Oliver offering this to him? What did he want in return? Seeing the confusion in Jamal's eyes, Oliver quickly added, "I don't expect anything from you, Jamal. I don't want anything in return. I've just seen the kindness in your heart, and I believe you deserve a chance. You deserve more than just surviving. You deserve to live." Jamal took a deep breath, his mind still swirling. This wasn't just a handout. This was a chance at something real, something he had never dared to hope for. But the fear that had been ingrained in him for so long still lingered. Could he really trust this man? Could he trust that this offer wasn't just another empty promise? Oliver seemed to sense his doubts and placed a hand on Jamal's shoulder, his touch warm and reassuring. "I know it's hard to believe, but I wouldn't be offering this if I didn't mean it. You've shown me something that most people have forgotten, the power of kindness. And I want to help you because of that." Jamal looked at Oliver, his heart beating faster. For the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to hope. He thought about Rocky, about the nights they spent huddled together in the cold, about how much better life could be if he didn't have to worry every single day about where they would sleep or what they would eat. Maybe, just maybe, this was his chance to change everything. After a long moment of silence, Jamal finally nodded. "Okay," he said, his voice quiet but filled with a sense of determination. "I'll take your help. I don't know what this will mean, but I'll trust you." A smile spread across Oliver's face and he gave Jamal's shoulder a gentle squeeze. "You won't regret it, Jamal. I promise." Over the next few days, things began to change. Oliver helped Jamal find a small apartment, a safe place where he could rest and begin to rebuild his life. Jamal was given a bed, food, and a sense of security he had never known before. It wasn't much, but it was a start to something new, something better. Jamal couldn't believe how quickly his world was changing. It was hard to adjust to the comfort of a bed after so many nights on the cold pavement, but he felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. And with each passing day, as he slowly adjusted to his new life, he began to see that this gift, this unexpected chance, could be the turning point he had always dreamed of. Oliver continued to support Jamal, offering guidance and encouragement. Together, they worked on building a future, one step at a time. And while Jamal still had a long way to go, he knew one thing for sure. His life had already changed. And it was all because of a simple act of kindness, a gift that had the power to change everything. The days in the small apartment felt unreal to Jamal. He woke up every morning with a sense of wonder, as if he were living someone else's life. The warmth of the bed, the soft sheets, and the quiet of the apartment were things he had only dreamed of before. It had only been a few weeks since he first stepped into the new space, but it already felt like a home. The harshness of the streets, the cold nights spent curled up with Rocky, and the constant struggle to survive now seemed so distant, like a bad dream fading away with the morning sun. Oliver had kept his word. He had given Jamal a chance to start fresh, but it wasn't just about the roof over his head or the food on the table. It was about the new opportunities that had begun to open up for Jamal. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had a future he could shape with his own hands. Every morning after Jamal made breakfast for himself and Rocky, he would spend time with Oliver. The man had become more than just a benefactor. He was a mentor, someone who took the time to teach Jamal not just about practical things like managing money and cooking, but about life itself. Oliver spoke about his own experiences, the lessons he had learned through years of hard work, and most importantly, the value of kindness. Jamal had always known that kindness mattered, but hearing Oliver's perspective, someone who had built a successful career, made him realize just how powerful it could be. Jamal saw how the simple acts of giving and caring for others were the foundation of a good life. Oliver didn't just teach him about wealth in terms of money, but about wealth in character and heart. One morning, as they sat at the small kitchen table, Oliver turned to Jamal with a thoughtful expression. "I think it's time for you to start thinking about what you want to do with your life, Jamal. You have a lot of potential. What do you want to learn? What are your dreams?" Jamal was taken aback by the question. He had never really thought about dreams before. His world had always been about surviving, about getting through each day. But now, in this new life, he found himself wondering. He thought about all the children he had met on the streets, how he had always shared stories with them, how he had always tried to make them smile, even when he had so little. "I guess," Jamal said slowly, "I want to help people. Like, you helped me. I want to make a place where people like me can feel safe, where they don't have to worry about where their next meal will come from." Oliver smiled, a warm, proud smile. "I think that's a great idea. And I think you're the right person to do it." From that day on, Jamal's life began to take shape in a way he had never imagined. Oliver helped him look into ways of getting involved with local charities and organizations that supported the homeless and underprivileged. They met with people who worked at shelters, learning about what was needed in the community and how they could make a real difference. In the evenings, when Jamal wasn't studying or volunteering, he would sit with Rocky in the park. He would watch people go by, some with their heads down, others chatting with friends, but all of them caught up in their own busy lives. Jamal realized how different his own life had become. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. He was taking part in the world around him, and for the first time he felt like he belonged. But the most significant change was in how he viewed himself. No longer did he see himself as the boy on the streets, the one who had to struggle every day just to stay alive. He saw himself as someone with a purpose, someone who could bring light to others, just as he had once done with the children who listened to his stories. Jamal was no longer defined by his circumstances. He was beginning to define his own future. Oliver continued to be by Jamal's side, offering guidance and support. He helped Jamal set goals, both big and small, and encouraged him to chase his dreams, no matter how far-fetched they seemed. They talked about starting a community center, a safe space for those who were still on the streets, a place where people could find shelter, food, and most importantly, hope. One afternoon, as Jamal walked through the park, he saw a group of children playing. They were laughing and running around carefree without a worry in the world. Jamal couldn't help but smile. He was still a kid at heart despite all he had been through. He thought about how he had once been just like them, full of hope, full of life. And now, he had a chance to bring that hope back to others who needed it most. The idea of the community center began to take shape. Jamal and Oliver spent the next few weeks planning. They met with local businesses, raised funds, and talked to people who could help bring the idea to life. With every step, Jamal B. felt more certain that this was what he was meant to do. And then one evening, as they sat together after a long day of planning, Oliver turned to Jamal. "I think it's time we make it official," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "You've worked so hard and you've shown everyone what true kindness is. This community center, it's yours, Jamal. You've earned it." Jamal's eyes widened in surprise. He had never expected this. "Mine? You mean it?" Oliver nodded. "Yes, it's yours. I believe in you, Jamal. I know you're going to make this place something special." For a moment, Jamal was speechless. He didn't know what to say. This was beyond anything he had ever dreamed. It wasn't just a place to live. It was a chance to give back, to make a difference, to build something lasting. As he stood up, looking out over the park, Jamal felt a sense of fulfillment that he had never known before. He was no longer the boy living on the streets. He was someone with a future, someone who had the power to change lives just as his life had been changed. With a heart full of gratitude, Jamal looked at Rocky, who wagged his tail, as if sensing the new chapter beginning. "We did it, buddy," Jamal whispered. "We're just getting started." The new beginning had arrived, and with it came the promise of a life filled with purpose, kindness, and the opportunity to make the world a better place, one step at a time.